Welcome to the new audio podcast with Thomas Gelmi. Take off now and boost your efficiency in leadership, teamwork, and customer contact. Today's topic is relationship first.
Have you ever felt like you wanted to influence somebody, giving clear instructions, trying to convey a message, and it didn't really resonate? You didn't really get the impression that you were able to bring your message across, and it didn't really land? Well, I would like to introduce you to a very simple image, a very simple approach that may lead into you being more influential and being more effective in influencing others, which can be quite crucial when it comes to leadership, collaboration, or customer interaction. Many years ago, I used to work for Swissair, the former Swiss national airline, and I used to lead cabin crews on international flights. Some of those flights were transatlantic flights over the North Atlantic route into North America. On this route, we regularly flew along the southern tip of Greenland and over the ice ocean. And what we saw above that ocean were icebergs floating in the sea. Some were bigger, some were smaller. Now, this iceberg is a beautiful image, a beautiful analogy when it comes to understanding what actually happens when two people or more people interact. And especially when it comes to mobilization and influencing of others. So just like with the real iceberg, we have a tip and we have a bigger part that's below the waterline. The tip of the iceberg is the rational level of our interaction. The facts and figures, statements, the visible behavior, or in other words, the obvious, the things that we easily see, notice, and recognize. There is, however, a bigger part happening below the waterline. And the waterline in this particular analogy stands for the limit or the separation between what I'm aware of and what I'm not aware of. So the bigger part is really in an area that most of us are not aware of, and that's the relationship level of the interaction. Anything that happens on the relationship level is usually not easily recognized, and if it's recognized, it's usually not conscious. So what are we talking about when we're talking about the relationship level? We're talking about values that drive behavior, beliefs, convictions, emotions, all kinds of emotions that drive behavior, like unaddressed or unexpressed anger, unexpressed resistance, fear, concern, anxiety, etc. And those things, those aspects happening on the relationship level have an impact on the effectiveness on the rational level. If you think for a moment, have you ever experienced a situation in which somebody wanted to convince you of an idea or sell a project or an idea to you? And maybe you have already at an early stage decided, nah, not gonna happen, not with you. So you locked the door on the relationship level. In such a situation, how likely is it that this other person will be able to convince you on the rational level with rational statements and facts and figures? Not very likely. So In other words, as long as there are roadblocks on the relationship level, it will get increasingly difficult to really move forward on the rational level. So let's have a look at another example. Usually, and especially in the business world, our focus is not necessarily on the relationship, but on the facts and figures, on the rational level. We hear this also in things that we say, like when we say, let's stay rational and let's focus on the facts and figures, and as if emotions were something to be locked out because they make everything only more difficult. Well, the opposite is true. So imagine for a moment you're leading a meeting, and very naturally your focus is on the rational level, the facts, the figures, the tasks. Now, during the meeting at some point, one of the team members says something, makes a statement that another team member feels offended by. But he or she doesn't address it. So we have created, or there is an irritation on the relationship level now. There is a disturbance. Do you think that this little event will have an impact on the effectiveness of this meeting on the rational level? Well, you bet it will. And let's assume for a moment that the heat goes up in this meeting and the level of and the potential of conflict increases, tension increases, and more people say things that other people feel offended by. Will this have an impact on the effectiveness of this meeting? Oh yes, it sure will. So, whenever we have irritations and roadblocks on the relationship level, our effectiveness on the rational level is drastically decreased. Now, what's the solution? Well, first of all, you can only control and manage what you can see, what you recognize, what you are aware of. Things you're not aware of, you cannot control. So in a first step, it's important to increase your sensitivity for what is happening on the relationship level at any given moment, be it in a meeting with several parties or in a one-on-one conversation. Now, what can be clues or indications for potential irritations on the relationship level? Basically, it's nonverbal signals that you can catch that will give you clues. If somebody is rolling their eyes, that's already very obvious. If somebody just crosses their arms and sits there like that, it could mean that they have locked down and there's some irritation, but not necessarily. It can also simply mean that the person is sitting comfortably. So much more important than how somebody's nonverbal expression is, are changes in the nonverbal expression. So when somebody suddenly looks away or avoids eye contact or starts shaking their head after a statement, these are clues, these are little signs for irritation on the relationship level. Verbal indications can be obvious too, more or less obvious, or also very subtle. If the volume of speaking increases, this can be an indication. The tone of voice gets a little more rough. More and more use of sarcasm. Sarcasm could be described as aggression in disguise of humor. An increasing use of the word but, because but stands for resistance. If I say yes, but, I actually show resistance. I actually say no rather than yes. So if you hear the word but more and more often in a meeting, that's quite a reliable indication for an increasing tension, increasing potential for conflict. So watch out for these clues, watch out for these signals. Make sure you have part of your attention on what's happening on the relationship level and not just on the rational level. Now, once you recognize some of these hints, clues, indications, what can you do about it and what should you do about it? It's very simple. Just ask a question to open a space in which the person addressed can voice their concern or voice the irritation. The question should be asked in a very open way and in a very non-judgmental way. For instance, Jeff, what do you think about this topic that we're currently discussing? Where do you currently stand? Angela, what's your opinion? A very widely open question. And you will hear whether there is an irritation or not. You will hear it in their answers that they will give to you. So, conclusion. Whenever you want to mobilize others, whenever you want to influence others, be it in leadership, collaboration, or customer interaction, make sure you put enough emphasis and enough focus on the relationship level, because that's where the music really plays. Just as with the real iceberg in the ocean. Guess what makes this iceberg move, or what even makes it change direction? Is it the winds blowing against the tip? Or is it rather the currents having an influence on the lower part below the waterline? I think by now the answer is clear, and you can take this image and really transfer it into real life. The main part of influencing and mobilization happens below the waterline on the relationship level. And the goal should be to let off the water, to lower the waterline so more and more of the iceberg becomes visible, that you become aware of more and more of what's happening on the relationship level so you can actually deal with it, manage it, and control it. My wish for you is that this impulse will help you increase your personal effectiveness. Yours, Thomas Gelmi.